It was a typical night shift for me at the nursing home. As a nurse, I've seen my fair share of residents pass away. However, this night was something else. I had just finished administering medications to the residents and settled down with a cup of coffee when I received a call from one of the caregivers. She informed me that one of our residents had passed away in her sleep. I immediately made my way to Mrs. Ross's room, trying to keep my emotions in check. As I entered the room, I saw her lifeless body lying in bed, a peaceful expression on her face. I took a silent moment for her and then turned to leave the room. But as I started to walk away, I heard the jingle of the nurse call button. I turned to see that it was Mrs. Ross's call light flashing. At first, I thought it must have been someone else accidentally hitting the button. However, as I approached the bed, I noticed that the button was being pressed repeatedly, almost urgently. I tried to brush it off as broken equipment and reset the button, but it kept ringing. I even tried to unplug it, but it continued to ring. I remember hearing stories from my colleagues about unexplained occurrences in this very room. Some said they had seen shadows wandering the halls at night. Others claimed to have heard someone calling out for help. But I had never believed in ghosts, dismissing these stories as mere rumors and superstitions. Now, as I stood in the room with the lifeless body of Mrs. Ross and the incessant ringing of the nurse call button, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. Realizing that there was no logical explanation for this, I quickly left the room and headed to the nurse's station. My colleague Linda was on duty with me that night, and I knew she had a knack for dealing with such situations. I explained to her what had happened, and she gave me a skeptical look. However, to my relief, she agreed to go to the resident's room with me. As we entered, the call button was still ringing. Linda tried everything she could think of to make it stop, but it wouldn't stop. I was feeling anxious and suggested that we call for help from our maintenance staff. While waiting for them to arrive, the ringing of the call button seemed to get louder and more frantic. It was as if something was desperately trying to get our attention. Just as we were about to lose our minds, the maintenance staff arrived and checked the button. To our surprise, they found nothing wrong with it. They simply shrugged and left the room, leaving us with an unanswered question: who or what was behind the ringing of the nurse call button? The incident left me unsettled for the rest of my shift, and I couldn't wait to leave the nursing home when my shift was over. I still don't know what caused the continuous ringing of the call button that night, but I have my suspicions. From that day on, whenever I walk past Mrs. Ross's room, I can't help but feel restless, wondering if something is trying to communicate with us.